Well, let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. I hope you're all having a good day and aren't too disappointed with the football result last night. To brighten up any gloomy moods, we've got a really exciting webinar planned for you today, looking at how housing associations are improving heat network performance with HNES. I'm Amy Taylor. I'm a marketing executive at Talon, which is the delivery partner for HNES. So first of all, I'll just cover some quick housekeeping rules. Please keep your microphones on mute to limit disruption during the webinar. And if you're not speaking, please turn off your webcams to improve video quality. We'll also have a Q&A section at the end of the webinar. So if you want to ask any questions, please use the Q&A function and we'll try and answer any questions throughout the session there. But we'll also have the dedicated Q&A section at the end. This webinar is being recorded and we will distribute the slides afterwards. So I'll just quickly run through today's agenda. We'll start off with Louise, HNES Programme Manager, who's going to be giving an overview of how HNES supports housing associations. Then we've got Ruben and James joining us from Connect Housing in Says, who will be talking about their Hawthorn funded project. We'll then have Lisa from Great Places Housing Association, who will be sharing insights on Richmond Park. We'll then have Andy, Aaron, George and Ray, who will be sharing insights on the Woodbrooke House, Bangor House and Newnham House projects. And finally, we'll have Katie Ansari, HNES Application and Grant Funding Lead, who's going to talk a bit about how you can benefit from HNES funding. And then finally, we will have our Q&A section. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Louise.
Thank you very much, Amy. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm Louise Singleton. I'm the HNES Programme Manager. So I work for Talon, formerly GemServe, and we deliver the scheme on behalf of the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero. So I'm just going to very quickly run through a bit of an overview of the scheme and specifically how it's helped housing associations since it launched in February 2023. So there are three aims of the scheme. The first is to reduce carbon emissions by making heat networks more efficient. So obviously we want to reduce the amount of waste, heat and energy being used in networks, so and obviously associated carbon emissions with that. We want to reduce customer detriment to improve consumer confidence. So there's two parts to that. The first, in terms of reducing customer detriment. So obviously we've had the sort of cost of living crisis and the energy price increases. And if anyone read the Warm Homes plan that came out in January from the government, there's a real focus on reducing consumer bills and bringing energy bills down where possible. So again, by improving the performance of heat networks, we can make sure that customers, and particularly those customers that are financially vulnerable, are not paying over and above what they should be paying if they were on a more efficient system. The second part around improving consumer confidence. So again, within the Warm Homes plan, the government has committed to increasing heat network coverage, I guess, within the country to 7% by 2035. In order to do that, they'll need to obviously build a lot more heat networks than we have currently. And they want to make sure that those that are already on a heat network are having a good experience so that future customers have a good confidence in the in the technology and the heating approach. So yeah, kind of two parts to that one. And then the third part is looking towards sector regulation and technical standards. So the heat network sector is now regulated. So we have Ofgem as the regulator and Citizens Advice working on the consumer protection side. So there are a number of regulations that are already in place, not least having to register your heat network with Ofgem. So you need to do that by January next year. And then there's also technical standards for how heat networks should operate, being they were consulted on a couple of months ago, and it's now with the government to look at how the heat network technical assurance scheme will be designed and brought into force. And obviously with HNES we can help improve efficiency to help meet any sort of potential future targets from an assurance scheme. In terms of what HNES has funded so far, we've supported 449 projects across rounds 1 to 10, and awarded over £81 million worth of funding for both capital and revenue, with over 80,000 residents benefiting, and almost 125,000 flights worth of carbon from London to New York saved as a result of the works that we've funded, which is brilliant. As you can see, housing associations have taken up sort of 40%. They are the leading sector in terms of organisations that receive funding, primarily, I guess, because of the fact that on the objective around customer detriments, we do have a focus on what we call customers in need, which is sort of financially vulnerable tenants and things like that. So obviously housing associations align very closely with that objective, which is good news. We move on to the next slide. We can fund projects in England and Wales. So you can see we've got a good distribution across both countries. Yeah, obviously always keen to have more come through, but yeah, a nice spread around the country. In terms of things we can fund, we can cover things from the energy centre through to primary, secondary networks and some elements of tertiary network as well. Things like upgrading or replacing pipework, improving or in some cases installing installation where it's not necessarily meeting current standards or doesn't exist. Updating controls, so that could be in the energy centre itself, things like the BMS system, or within dwellings, so replacing TRVs or installing TRVs on radiators, things like that. Replacing or commissioning or recommissioning HRUs or installing HRUs is also something that's been quite a popular measure. But then also looking at the other things sort of more indirect around things like improving water quality. So measures that can be done to make sure that the water quality is at a good level, so pipes aren't corroding or pumps aren't getting damaged from pebbles and things like that in the water. And finally, reducing leaks. So again, if you've got holes or cracks in pipework, you're obviously losing water, which isn't ideal. So yeah, just a number of different examples of things that have been funded. We have announced, like I say, rounds 1 to 10 of the projects that have been successful in receiving funding. We'll hopefully be announcing round 11 outcomes in the next couple of months. But we have on our website a number of press releases about the projects that are funded in each round. So there's a link at the bottom of this slide that will take you to the website, which is HNES.uk. And you can find on there a list of all the press releases that we've done, some case studies as well. But yeah, this one's specifically looking at round 10. So we awarded over £15 million of funding to 94 heat networks with over 10,000 residents set to benefit from the works. So yeah, if you want to find out more about the different projects that have been funded, then yeah, please visit our website. And then looking at housing associations specifically, so yeah, across those 10 funding rounds, we funded 240 projects within housing association, 61 capital and 179 revenue, and just shy of £38 million of funding has been awarded. So again, like I say, housing associations traditionally have done quite well through HNES. So yeah, we're keen to reach out and spread the word that HNES exists and identify more housing associations that can possibly benefit from the support that we have. So yeah, so that was me just to give a quick introduction to the scheme. I'm now going to hand over to Ruben, who's going to talk you through our first case study.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ruben Davis with Connect Housing. I'm here with James Hanson, who's Managing Director at our principal contractor. I'm going to be talking through 2 funded projects that we've completed recently this year through HNES. So just a quick introduction to Connect Housing. We're a relatively smaller housing association in comparison to to local council with around about 3,500 homes. Just a quick introduction to myself. I'm an apprentice building surveyor in the asset investment team. I'm currently studying for my bachelor's honours degree at the University of the Built Environment. But we initially only had two heat networks that fell under the new heat network regulations due to our size. Like I said, Hawthorn Mill and Knowle Court, which are both in the Leeds, West Yorkshire area. Due to the size of us, we didn't have any internal support on M&E consultancy, but we were really strong in trying to get the best service we could for the project. So we initially instructed Chirpy Heat to go and complete the M&E consultancy work prior to the project. The work with HNES was crucial for us to be able to offer an enhancement to our tenants' comfortability with the homes, and going forward, obviously, the decarbonisation as well. Next slide, please.
Morning, everyone. I'd just like to start off by saying thank you to HNES and Connect Housing for giving me the opportunity to be part of today's webinar. For those who don't know us, SAYS Service Limited, we're a Leeds-based SME, and we operate across Yorkshire and the Humber, and we specialise in HVAC maintenance, installation and project delivery. While SAYS Service Limited were established in 2006, our building services heritage actually dates back to 1931, when these services were delivered through an internal department of SAYS and Company Limited. That history gives us access to over 90 years of industry knowledge and experience across the wider organisation. I'm James Hanson, Director at SAYS, and I've been with the business for over 20 years. I started as a trainee, and then I've progressed through a variety of roles covering design, project delivery and operational management. I do feel fortunate to have spent my career with a company that's retained its core values whilst continuing to grow and evolve. On this particular project, Connect Housing appointed SAYS as principal contractor to deliver the HNES works, and our responsibility extended beyond simply carrying out the install works. We were there to plan, coordinate and manage the project safely, minimise disruption to residents and ensure a quality outcome for Connect Housing. And as a business, we're incredibly proud of the work we do, but equally proud of the relationships we build with our clients. We've worked with Connect for over 10 years, and throughout this project, we built upon our strong working relationship, which is based on openness, trust, and a shared objective of delivering the best possible outcome for residents. And that collaboration was a significant factor in the success of this project. Next slide, please.
So just a quick introduction to Hawthorn Mill, which was the first project. It's a supported housing scheme located in Leeds for people aged over 55. It makes up 34 dwellings which are connected to the communal heat network. The heat network's fed by a single plant room containing 3 gas-fired boilers. It was built in 1993, and due to the age and the building fabric, it was identified at operating at a low efficiency, as you can see there, 38.8%. It's purpose-built, so that means it's got large communal areas, and the tenants are extremely involved in the community focus, and as a result, they're extremely involved in the project as well, which was a positive for us. The building's got extensive ward and call systems, as well as other modern technologies as well. Next slide, please. So the next project was Knowle Court, which was also located in Leeds. 22 flats, which feed the heat network. The plant room contains 2 gas-fired boilers compared to Knowle Court, which has 3. It was built in 1970 and it was identified at operating at a low efficiency of 37.3%. I think the key difference between the two blocks is the less communal areas which were used for heating, really. Next slide, please. So the optimization study, I think we were relatively lucky, to be honest, to be quite ahead of the curve. We instructed FairHeat to go out and complete the M&E consultancy work, which was revenue funded. They went out on the 4th of the 1st, 2024 for Hawthorn Mill, and then the 5th of the 1st for Knoll Court. They looked at the main components of the heat network, so that was the plant rooms, the distribution systems, and then the properties themselves with things like the radiators. Next slide, please. So some of the key study findings that we found from the report from FairHeat were annual energy costs. We initially identified 9 optimization measures with a total of £2,807 being saved across the year, and 201 tonnes of carbon saved over a 20-year life cycle. The decarbonisation, as you can see there, 47 kilograms carbon per kilowatt hour. The target was to reduce that by 17%. So quite a substantial figure, we'd say, to say the size of the buildings. And then there's a table there at the bottom with just our return on investment on all the components that FairHeat specified for us. Next slide, please. So Knoll Court, similarly, there was 9 optimization measures found, slightly lower at 1,325 annual energy costs saved, which is still quite a substantial amount for us. 94.7 tonnes of carbon reduction across the 20-year life cycle. And then the decarbonisation targets, pretty similar to Hawthorn Mill, came in at 16%. And then obviously, again, you've got the return on investment and all the components there at the bottom. Next slide. So next we've got sort of a slip which has an interview section from myself, which talks through what we did at both the blocks. It goes into a bit more detail, walks around one of the blocks, so Hawthorn Mill, and gives you an insight on the hands-on works in the project. And we've just got a small YouTube video here that we walk through the block for you. I don't think there's any sound if you just unmute. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, let's give that a go. See if this works.
No, there's still no sound coming through from my end.
I'm not sure if we're going to get the sound to pull through.
No, We can sort of skip over that, Louise. It's fine. Don't want to hold up the webinar.
Amy, why don't you put the link in the chat and people can.
Will do, and then people can watch it in their own time.
Yeah, perfect.
So yeah, you can obviously read that in your own time. I'm sure it'll be shared after this webinar, but essentially, we walk around, we'll look at the individual flats, sort of explain the work around the TRVs. We give an insight into the BMS, which was essentially integrated into the plant room, which gives readings, accurate readings, which are important to see and tell us how efficiently the system's operating at. So obviously, feel free to have a look at the video in your own time if it's in the chat. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so just a little bit on the scope of work that we delivered for Connect Housing. So this slide summarises the key measures that we delivered across both sites. A major focus was improving the overall efficiency of the heat networks. This included upgrading and reinstating thermal insulation where pipework was exposed or where existing insulation had deteriorated. And whilst this can appear to be a relatively simple measure, reducing heat loss across a network can have a significant impact on overall system performance. Within the individual dwellings, we delivered a series of optimisation measures, including the installation and commissioning of dynamic presettable TRVs, domestic hot water flow restrictors, and primary heating commissioning stations. Alongside this, we reviewed and optimised pump controls to improve the hydraulic performance and system balancing throughout the buildings. We also carried out substantial building controls upgrades, replacing the heating controls equipment and installing modern web-enabled NX controllers. And this provides Connect Housing with a much more capable and expandable controls platform, along with enhanced visibility of system operation and performance. And importantly, these measures weren't delivered in isolation. Each improvement was designed to complement the others, creating a more efficient, controllable and better performing heating system as a whole. Next slide, please. So yeah, this slide sort of takes us beyond the actual physical work that was carried out on site. For us, the success of a project isn't measured solely by what's been installed. It's about the benefits that continue long after we've left site. The insulation improvements, balancing works and control upgrades all contribute towards reducing distribution heat losses, improving temperature control and creating a better balanced heating network. And from a resident perspective, the objective is improved comfort and consistency. Residents should experience a heating system that responds more effectively, performs more reliably, and provides a better overall living environment. And from Connect Housing's perspective, the upgraded BMS platform provides significantly improved monitoring and reporting capabilities, and this gives the ability to make more informed operational decisions and better understanding of how the systems are performing on an ongoing basis. And then looking further ahead, the infrastructure now provides a solid foundation for future improvements. Additional monitoring and building services integration can be incorporated as asset strategies evolve, ensuring the investment made today continues to deliver value in the future. Next slide, please.
So just from a client perspective there, just a little bit on why we did the works. Obviously, in response to the new heat network regulations, we looked at it as being proactive and satisfying new regulations initially. But obviously the Ukraine-Russia war and other global events that have been going on, we knew that that'd have a huge knock-on effect on our tenants, fuel prices, and just trying to respond to this crisis. We thought, what better way to sort of offer the social side of sustainability through, trying to reduce our tenants' fuel prices through efficiency measures around the heat networks. Our corporate strategy is fairer, greener, smarter, and I think it quite clearly aligns with at least two of those keywords. Greener in the decarbonisation targets that we've spoken about, and also smarter. The system becomes more integrated, easier to use for our tenants, and easier to track for us on efficiency measures. As a whole, the HNES scheme gave us a great opportunity to invest into our stock. Looking at all the sustainability pillars, environmental, social and economical, we see it as a real success story, being able to hit all of those figures, to be honest. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so this slide covers the main success factors. So whilst the technical works are important, projects like these are rarely successful because of the technology alone. And in my view, one of the biggest success factors was the collaborative approach adopted by everyone involved from the outset. Early contractor involvement allowed practical challenges to be discussed and addressed before they became problems. The partnership between Connect Housing and SAYS was equally important. We always felt that both organisations were working towards the same goal, and that positive relationship made it much easier to make decisions, overcome challenges and keep the programme progressing. Resident engagement was another critical aspect. Understandably, any works carried out within occupied buildings have the potential to create concern or inconvenience, so clear communication and aftercare were essential throughout. One example was myself and Ruben regularly attending the residents' coffee mornings with the scheme managers just to build that rapport with the tenants. And I think that was quite key in the success, certainly with the access rates that we achieved. And finally, none of this would have been possible without a relentless focus on safety, quality and programme management. As principal contractor, those responsibilities sat firmly with us, and I'm pleased that we were able to complete the works whilst maintaining our own high standards across all areas of delivery.
Just to add on that, as a client side, a key success factor, especially around the health and safety that we saw on site, we obviously had a consultant that carried out our CDM duties for us. Now, they were extremely impressed with SAYS's scores on audits. We had 2 audits completed, as well as regular meetings with all the parties of the projects, which allowed us to act to a really good high standard and respond to any concerns quickly. Next slide. So just some key factors to consider as well, from a client's point of view. We also completed a window programme alongside the commercial heating upgrades. We looked at the whole building, and we didn't want to upgrade the heating system and leave sort of the initial bare bones of the building fabric at a lower standard. So that was completed alongside. The minor repairs that we found in the building fabric, we included in the tender contingency fee for repairs, which we thought was appropriate to not allow the programme to fall behind. We were on a 6-week programme, 3 weeks rolling at both sites, and that contingency fee allowed us to respond to repairs that we found quickly, efficiently. It meant that we didn't have to sort of wait on minor repairs that we found. Just as an ongoing monitoring and reporting, we have engaged with Switch2, who are our tariff providers. As the improvements were only completed in March, we've not really got a great data piece to be able to share. But we're hopeful that with the upgrades that we've completed across the next year, coming up to the winter months, that we'll be able to see that fall in trends. Just some feedback from the residents up to this point. It has been warm. Obviously, with the recent weather that we've had, the heating has not been in use as much. But yeah, like I say, we need 12 months sort of report on that. But as a whole, we've thought it's been a real success story up to this point. And then the final piece of the puzzle will really be seeing that data coming in. Next slide.
Yeah, just to conclude, really, just a thank you to everyone involved for making the project a success. Thanks to Connect for placing their trust in SAYS, and thanks to Ruben and the wider Connect team for the collaborative and professional approach throughout the project. I think this project is a great example of what we enjoy doing as a company, combining technical building services expertise with practical project delivery, and building strong relationships with clients and creating lasting benefits for residents. And you can also see there my contact details are on there. If anyone wants to get in touch, I think the slides are being shared anyway. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you, everyone. If there's any questions, feel free to put them in chat, and I'll try and look at them throughout the webinar. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ruben and James. And we'll now pass over to Lisa from Great Places Housing Association.
Oh, thank you, Amy. So thank you for having me. So my name is Lisa Sharples. I am the Energy and Heat Network Manager at Great Places. Great Places is a social housing landlord. For those of you who are not aware, we manage and own just over 28,000 properties, and within that we have a portfolio of just under 40 heat networks. So today I'm going to talk about Richmond Park. Next slide, please. So Richmond Park is 299 properties across an estate with one community centre, and it's various tenures and different types of buildings that are connected to it, from one-bedroom flats through to 2, 3, 4-bedroomed homes. So the challenge is really clear here. The local housing team were really struggling with a few elements. So there was excessive heat losses across the network, high return temperatures, and the flow and return temperatures were practically, there was no delta T, no difference. Poor insulation, which is quite common on, our legacy heat networks. Our customers had limited control, and there was limited control within the plant rooms also. We had aging equipment, and we had unsafe domestic hot water cylinders within the property. So all the customers had individual hot water cylinders, which, leaks, overheating, alongside HIU. And we had unreliable heat metered, resulting in estimated bills. This was probably the biggest challenging for the team who were looking after the scheme at the time, is the lack of data that was coming out of the heat meters to enable them to accurately bill the customers, and that was set through the service charge. So lack of data is key, and all that resulted in our customers having, low trust in the data and their heating charges and the system as a whole. Next slide, please. So the impact to the customer was that they were sometimes paying higher than necessary energy costs. We had that they had that individual limited access to what they were actually using, consumption, to be able to manage their cost. Overall, that was, you know, the inefficiencies across the scheme were massively reduced. You know, some safety concerns with overheating and just poor customer confidence in the system. And as you can see in the background, this is Richmond Park with 9 plant rooms, some, you know, accessible above and some, you know, behind customers' homes, etc. And one of the things that we found is customers who had, when we had hot water tanks, quite often when the system wasn't performing or when the plant rooms were offline, it was sort of masked by customers still having their hot water. Next slide, please. Next slide. So, Great Places went on a bit of a journey with this scheme. We secured an optimization study via HNES, which then we took through to a capital application, just over 3.2 million. The project in total was. So much like what Louise and Ruben talked about, you know, insulating the pipework, BMS automation and smart controls, so remote access to our BMS, you know, and pump controls, weather compensation, water quality, all improved in the plant rooms, closures of network bypasses, all radiators were commissioned with TRVs installed, which were PT40s. And water quality improvement was huge. It took us a long time to get that right, but it was, you know, really, really key. Cylinders were replaced with HIU, so customers were able to have both heating and hot water from their HIU, and this was all supported through from revenue optimization funded study right through to capital. So this was the solution. We worked with our partners, FairHeat, to get that. So one of the really great, next slide please, Amy, you were right to go then. One of the really big impacts that we seen for our customers when we optimized the heat network, and it predominantly was a dwelling first approach, and the plant room came afterwards, optimizing the plant room. When we come to set down the tariff, when that work had been completed, we've seen the tariff reduced by 50%, and customers' average annual savings were around £513. But some customers were, you know, were saving even more. We had a great story where there was one customer who wanted to continue to pay the same amount each month, and during the whole of summer, after it was upgraded, he was in that much credit he didn't have to pay at all during the summer. And we wanted to make sure that customers had the ability to pay by prepay or direct debit or go and top up whatever they needed. We wanted to give customers the full visibility to be able to do that, and we installed guru meters, which gives the customers a really good oversight within their home. So that was the benefits from the customers, so lower heating bills, they had greater control over their household budgets because of that, accurate billing and reliable metering that's give them more confidence. You know, they have a meter and billing provider to go and speak to, which is Sycus, who is able to offer them support and give them that real-time update. They have real-time visibility of their energy use, and we also have visibility to be able to help them customers. And just overall, that improved heating and hot water reliability. We experienced quite a lot of outages, which were now completely reduced. Next slide, please. So the retrofit program improved the network performance by reducing heat losses by 40%, so just bringing it just over to 200 watts per dwelling. And know that those that you know, that is one of the key milestones within Hentas Heat Network Technical Assurance Scheme, so we feel confident the work that we've done is helping us to work towards that. We've seen across the scheme 23% reduction in gas consumption. Some plant rooms, we've seen that higher, and 64% reduction in electrical consumption. And that is a lot to do with controls of the pump set. And how I like to explain it, just things were on or off before, and now they were controlled with weather compensation and usage, and it's not just that high temperature put out. So lower carbon emission, reduced fuel costs for Great Places, which feeds into the tariff for the customer, overall improve operational efficiency, and a stronger foundation now for us to enable us to decarbonise Richmond Park. Next slide, please. So this is a really key one for us, so delivering with our customers. So our customers were asking for this work, and so was our neighbourhoods team, and it was identified as a key heat network to do. So we had 95% customer engagement. And when we talk about customer engagement, our delivery partners, FairHeat, were saying on average across all their schemes, 80% of customers engage and book an appointment. But what we found at Richmond Park, that was 95%, and something Ruben and the team were talking about before. It was that really key engagement. We did it in a variety of ways. We had what's called an Our Voice page where customers could have a QR code, and that would take them to a page that have all the contact details on and the material. We'd communicate to the customers in the way that was right for them, that they requested. So whether that be in writing, in person, engagement events, we communicated to our customers in a variety of ways, and we've developed our FAQs to help us answer the customers' questions and regularly updated them. Really valuable is to speak to your customers and see what questions and queries they have, and we regularly updated them. We had leaflets distributed and postcards and on-site presence from our subcontractor Broadoak and FairHeat, who had signage so customers knew where to go. We really key, we had a dedicated customer liaison officer, as you can see in the middle there in this photo, and we also had one with our subcontractor, and they worked together to help us then only work on the 5% of customers, which that meant we achieved 100% access, we completed on time, and unbelievably we actually come under budget. So really important. We had some outages, but actually we maintained heating and hot water throughout the project for customers. And I think this is a really important one. It's quite a lot of work and disruption for customers, and we worked around the customers. We did what's right for them. We involved our tenancy coaches or other services that they may need, so that no customer had to be decanted to allow that work to go on. And I think this is really important. It's that collaborative working. A lot of projects, you might just do a monthly meeting. We did weekly on-site meetings, and we went and spoke to the customers who were maybe not understanding how to use the meter or how to control the system. So I think it's really important that it's a customer first approach when delivering and minimal disruption. I think that's it. So thank you very much. Any questions, pop them in the chat. Happy to answer them. And I've just given you like a bit of a whistle-stop tour, so there may be some other questions that I can help you with. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lisa. We will now pass over to Andy, Aaron, George, and Ray.
Thank you, Amy. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to come and present to you today. I'm pleased to say I'm joined by my colleagues, Aaron at Chirpy Heat, George and Ray at Dodd Group. So I'm going to go through our round 7 bid with you. Next slide, please. Before I do that, just a quick kind of introduction. My name is Andy Duke. I am the interim head of assets and development at Solihull Community Housing. We are an ALMO. We manage 10,000 properties on behalf of the Solihull Solihull Council, apologies. Of those 10,000 properties, we have 37 high-rise buildings, which all fall under the definition of high-risk buildings. So we've basically, our round 7 bid was comprising of 3 energy centres serving 8 residential tower blocks, approximately 570 units. Our bid was split into 3 in round 7. Next slide, please. So similar themes to colleagues that have presented previously: historic legacy systems. Ours were installed around about 2012 by British Gas. So we're starting to see failings in the system and have done for some time. We've seen a growing trend in reactive maintenance, which essentially has asked questions upon the system's capabilities. However, the biggest reason for doing this work was what our customers were saying to us. They're saying that the systems were unstable. They were expensive. They were switching to electricity, electric heaters rather than using the biomass system. So, and also we did have lots of outages that they've only increased. So this was about 5 or 6 years ago. So we started seeing these trends, and this is what's led us to kind of investigate what exactly is going on. And with our principal contractor Dodds, this is what we've been doing. The colleagues have said it previously. The BMS is, the Lisa's analogy of on or off is extremely accurate. That's basically how they were initially operating. They were either full bore or off. So clearly we wanted to have more control over our systems, and also we suffered with the carbon steel corrosion that were first installed, sweating of the pipework. So this was again all totting up in terms of capital outlay. So when we were kind of looking at the extent of what this potentially could cost us, we had to look at options of funding, and thankfully then obviously HNES were there to assist. So I think I'm going to hand over to Aaron now on the next slide.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andy. Apologies, I've had to pop my camera off as my signal's struggling a little bit here. But yeah, as a quick introduction, I'm Aaron Kirkbright. I am the Heat Network Strategy Lead at FairHeat, and I essentially lead all of our HNES related activities. So as Andy kicked us off with, this 2 years before the HNES Round 7 application, and that started to understand the failings of the heat network. Then these investigations included condition surveys, water quality assessments, network performance assessments, and then ultimately an optimization study to ensure that all decisions on the network were evidence-based. And then as uncovered quite a few issues with the system, such as significant debris and poorly designed and installed pipework on the system. Next slide, please. So following this, we then looked to develop a clear plan, which used the findings of these investigations to inform the measures that needed to be undertaken. So this focused on improving across the network, essentially, increasing lower the customer costs, improve the maintainability of the network to ensure that any future issues could be easily addressed or avoided with minimal downtime. Minimize the replacement costs as well. So these aspects combined looks to kind of maximize the impact of the funding that we were applying to HNES to use. Sorry, next slide, please.
Have we lost you, Aaron?
Oh, sorry. Where did I cut out?
I think if you just start from this slide again, that'd be great.
Apologies, my internet seems to be struggling today. So in terms of the engineering scope, the improvement plans looked at the networks holistically, ensuring that measures weren't taken in isolation and that all aspects of the heat networks would operate efficiently, sort of in unison. So within dwellings, this looked at undertaking measures to increase efficiency, provide additional control, extend the system lifespan, and provide even heat distribution as well. Then for the distribution network, measures looked to replace leaking and degraded pipework, increase maintainability, reduce heat loss, and then again extend system lifespan, which was a key one for us. And then finally, for the energy centre, the works looked to increase control over the system, maximise the plant efficiency, and increase the water quality as well, which again obviously helps with the lifespan. So by bringing all of these elements together, the result was a high-performing, efficient, and reliable heat network. Next slide, please. So one of the primary reasons for the success of this project was the collaboration by all parties involved. So Solihull Community Housing is the next network owner and operator, and they were the project sponsor and responsible for bringing in the other parties to the project as well. Then FairHeat were brought in as a specialist in undertaking some of the early investigations and optimization study, and then pulling together the HNES application as well. Zenergy came in pre-application to verify the design, and then finally Dodd Group were responsible for the overall project delivery, including the installation, the commissioning, and yeah, ultimately delivery of the efficiency improvement measures. Next slide, please. So in terms of the process, that would usually begin with FairHeat submitting free of charge HNES revenue application for the client, and then assuming that application is successful, we then go on to deliver an optimization study. However, on this project, due to time constraints, we went straight in to the optimization study without HNES funding, so it was self-funded, and that meant we could go directly for a HNES capital application, which FairHeat took a lead on in collaboration with Dodd Group. Once the application was confirmed in terms of receiving the funding, Dodd Group were then able to crack on with delivering the works themselves, and then passed back to us for some ongoing HNES monitoring and reporting. So as you can see from the timeline on the bottom, it was about a year and a half from sort of starting that optimization study through to the works actually being delivered, which was fairly efficient in terms of timing. So I'll now pass over to George, who will go through the works delivery and some of their impacts as well.
Good stuff. Thank you, Aaron. Apologies if there's any background noise. I'm in quite a busy hotel lobby. As Aaron's alluded to, and again, some of our colleagues who presented previously, key for us was the replacement of the BMS in the 3 energy centres to give us full controllability of the systems, but both on-site and remotely. You can see on the pictures there that the state of the distribution pipework, closed circuit distribution pipework, was in a very bad state of affairs, which led to a considerable number of outages in all of the schemes in question, leading to a very negative attitude toward the heat network from the residents due to the interruption to service of both heating and hot water over quite a prolonged period. Nice shot of the completed works thereafter with the new BMS, and not that you can really see it on this slide, but significant improvement in efficiency and reduction in return temperatures. Next slide, please. So as Aaron mentioned, we engaged Zenergy for a full design assessment of the existing installation to verify pipework sizing, flow rates, etc., to ensure efficiency and also to safeguard all of the distribution circuits for potential future low temperature use through alternate fuel sources. Incidentally, these are predominantly biomass fired energy centres. So I think, as Andy mentioned, there was quite a high tariff at the outset for the residents for the use of the heat service, which thankfully post measure installation has reduced significantly, along with the efficiency gains that we've proven to reduce the operating costs for Solihull. Next slide, please. So really, the way we looked at it, as Aaron mentioned, probably predates the HNES application by a couple of years. It was quite an intensive investigation of all of the 23 biomass-fired heat networks within the Solihull borough, looking at how we could improve the efficiency, how we could reduce the outages within all of those blocks. Carbon still being a major issue for us, which hadn't been treated correctly at the outset, wasn't lagged correctly with no vapor membrane, so it was basically rotting from the inside out and the outside in, which is perhaps the worst situation you could find. Basically, through the installation process, Solihull now have systems with a 25-year manufacturer warranty on the installed pipework, ongoing water quality regime as per BISRA requirements. So we're maintaining the performance, the efficiency of the systems on a constant basis. We've got remote connectivity, as I mentioned, through to the BMS. So if there is any issue or any alarm scenario, that's signaled to us via email from the respective energy centres. Although that said, we've had no unplanned outages since completion of the measures. And I think, Ray, Bangor was completed around about this time last year, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, George. June last year. Yeah.
So next slide, please. Oh, sorry, actually, just to mention before. Oh, that was my great reveal slide. Sorry. Just to mention the resident engagement piece with the SCH comms team. We had a couple of dedicated resident liaison officers on this as well. We worked weekends and out of hours throughout the process. Equally, bearing in mind you're talking about 18-metre plus high-rise buildings and replacement of all riser and lateral pipework throughout, secondary pipework throughout those blocks. There was minimal interruption to service for the residents. We phased the works, and all blocks were, or all residents remain in situ, and we had phased working throughout the day during normal working hours to reduce the impact on a break of service to those residents whilst we replace that pipework. So next slide, please. So it's still relatively early days in terms of the ongoing assessment of efficiency improvements. As I'm sure the other colleagues that have presented today can attest, it's basically a process of tweaking the BMS to understand what setback temperatures we can achieve where full service is still maintained, but at a reduced cost of delivery. It's basically targeting supply to demand as best we can on a heat interface network. But we're already seeing significant efficiency improvements and further reductions to resident energy tariffs. Next slide, please. So really, yeah, just to reiterate, it was a very sizable project. So 8 high-rise blocks delivered over a 10-month period with some quite challenging funding expenditure constraints. At the outset, we were awarded in January 25, and at least 4 of those blocks had to be completed before the end of that financial year, so by the end of March. So we had to mobilise very quickly and progress through the programme with speed. But that said, we had some fantastic results and great resident accolades from the work that was completed. That's kind of it for me, I think. But equally, as everybody said, oh, no, there is some more. Sorry. Right. Yeah. So obviously, we're still engaged with FairHeat for the ongoing monitoring and reporting back into HNES. We are in the first year of a 10-year partnership for the day-to-day repairs and maintenance with Solihull Community Housing. So we continue to operate and maintain the blocks in question, and are looking to submitting in the next round for the remaining 5 blocks on the heat networks. So there we go. Contact
Brilliant.
details. Yep.
Thank you all. And yes, we'll be sharing the slides as well afterwards. So yes, do get in touch with the team if you have any questions. We'll now pass over to Katie, who's our HNES application and grant funding lead, and she'll be chatting a bit about how you can benefit from HNES funding.
Thank you, Amy. Great. So next slide, please. Cool. So just going to talk a bit about what funding is available. We still have funding for both revenue grants and capital grants. On the capital grant side, you can apply for full funding, which will be for the procurement or mobilisation of an external third-party support to carry out the optimisation studies. The study will assess the whole of the heat network to identify any of the causes of the suboptimal performance, any issues that you may be facing, outages, things like that. And then you'll receive the optimisation report, which will have their analysis of the heat network and any of their recommended measures to carry out to improve the heat network as well. So it does say down there that we've had up to 2 million of funding for financial year 23-24 to 24-25, but we do have additional funding in future financial years, so including this year and next year. But again, it's subject to availability, depending on how many projects apply and get funding and things like that. And on the capital side, it's partial funding, so it's up to but not including 50%. And this is for the delivery or installation of any of the eligible measures, either recommended from the optimisation studies or like if the heat network's already aware of any issues that it's facing. So any equipment installation and things like that will be covered. You can look for further information on that in the HNES guidance for applicants. It will cover like what isn't eligible, so you can have a little run through on that. And in terms of funding wise, we've got up to 105 million across from the financial year 23-24 up to financial year 29-30. It is important to note that the grant funding must be spent within its allocated financial year. So it's important that you are aware of this for your project plan, and also to avoid any funding being lost. It is also worth noting that match funding doesn't need to be spent at the same time as grant funding, so you can spend all your grant funding up front or up first, and then use your match funding the year after or something like that, depending on your budgets. And next slide, please. So in terms of who can apply, well, round 12 is currently underway, but the new rule at the moment is from round 12 onwards. So all capital applicants must support customers in need. So the heat networks must have a percentage of customers in need that it will benefit, or they'll need to demonstrate strategic rationale for funding. So any links to GHNF projects or heat network zonings and zones and things like that. But if that's the case, in terms of revenue and capital, operators of existing operators of existing district or communal heat networks, any heat network situated in England or Wales, as Louise touched on earlier, and again, any public sector, private sector, or third sector organisations. However, legal entities can apply for on behalf as long as they have the authority to sign off on investment decisions, and this will need to be provided as evidence for the heat network that they're applying for and responsible for. And on to the next slide, please. So in terms of funding rounds, so round 13 is expected to open on the 17th of August, with the last day to request an application form on the 25th of September. Again, this will give, with the closing date as well, to expected to close on the 9th of October. This is important because the applications are on a portal and they're live, so you'll need to do it all online, and it'll give you enough time to complete the whole form and do it to the best of your ability. And then for round 14, then it's expected to open in December. There isn't an exact date yet, but the guidance will be updated, or if you're on our mailing list, you'll receive further updates on that. Again, the closing date is 2 weeks. Well, the last day to request an application form is 2 weeks before the closing date, and it is expected to close in February 2027. There is a link down there that you'll be able to access when the slides get sent out later. And in terms of where to find help, then you can email us at hnes@talon.com for any general inquiries or requests to ask. Request access to HNES online portal, or inquire about future applications. You can also follow the link there for the guidance for applicants, sign up to our mailing list, and read DESNZ's optimization guides on those links there. There is also some videos if you prefer videos instead. And then the team is below. Does anyone have any questions?
Brilliant. Thanks, Katie. So we'll now move into our Q&A section. So if anybody has any questions for our speakers, feel free to pop it in the Q&A or the chat, or if you'd like to raise your hand and pop your camera on, feel free to do so.
So I believe there's a couple of questions in Q&A chat. Just having a look through these now. There's one for, oh sorry, they have replied maybe. Yeah, sorry, the one for Solihull's replied. In terms of the comment from David, what percentage of customers in need is threshold from round 12 onwards? It'll need to be in a sense of you have a percentage of customers in need, but it's as long as you can prove, sorry, I'm trying to think of the right words, that it's not just sort of shared housing and things like that.
I can take that one, Katie, if you want.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. There's no kind of minimum threshold. You have to have some customers in need essentially, but if you come in with sort of 1% customers in need, then essentially we would still be scored that the greater percentage of customers in need you have, the sort of better scoring you'll probably get in terms of that particular element of the criteria. We'd also, yeah, like you say, if you come forward with 1%, well, for all people that come forward and say they've got customers in need, we want some understanding of how you've arrived at those figures. So we do have some exclusions as what we would not class as customers in need. So that includes things like affordable housing, or like students, for example, at a university, they wouldn't be included. So we have a list in our guidance documents, so we can put a link to that in the chat as well. But yeah, so we want some understanding of how you've arrived at that figure, and yeah, so the higher percentage you have of customers in need, the better, really.
Thank you, Louise.
David's also asked if the teams can recap on their energy savings and what they were after the schemes went live. I don't know if anyone would like to jump in there. Andy, I can see your hands
I
raised.
was going to pick up on David's comment on HRBs. If you want to pick it up now, or come back to me. Happy for.
Yeah, feel free to pick on that one first. I will just read it out. Solihull, as you were working on HRBs, was there any added complexity through working with building safety regulator, or did your work fall outside of their scope other than updating the golden thread?
So, it goes without saying, with 37 HRBs across our stock, we have had applications via via the BSR on various other projects. And also we have access to consultants that are working on those projects for us, principally principal designer building regs. So on this project, we sought a view from our consultants working on other projects to form an opinion on whether we were required or did we fall outside of scope of the BSR and the gateway process. And it transpired, yes, we believed we did. We have all this evidence on file, so we proceeded as if we were outside of scope, mainly because we'll be replacing existing pipework in existing penetrations, fire stopping every day after works, those sorts of things. So we felt we were outside of scope, and that was confirmed by our consultants. So, I mean, if there's anything you want me to take offline, David, anything like that, feel free to contact me. That's not a problem at all.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andy. Lisa, would you like to come in?
Yeah, Andy was talking about some energy savings. So I just wondered if it was energy savings in regards for the customer or the overall. So I can speak to both if that helps. So we reduced our gas consumption across all the 9 networks by 23%. And we reduced electric consumption just over 60%. But for the customers, their savings and that tariff was just over £500 per customer, and it reduced their tariff by 50%, the optimization work. So it was really, really valuable for the customers. I hope that helps, David.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lisa. We have another question from Reese, who said, were the efficiency improvements being made across the sites with the proposed HNES standards in mind, and what will be needed to comply with these, or more about maximising the efficiency of the systems already in place? Don't know if anyone wants to jump in on that one.
I'm happy to take that one. So because these works were from HNES round 7, the draft HNES documents weren't published by that point. So these works were undertaken separate to that process, and works undertaken through HNES are about maximising the efficiency of the system rather than necessarily complying with HNES. However, it is probably worth noting that there's usually a lot of parallels in that. So generally, by increasing the efficiency of the system and improving it for customers, you move a lot closer to complying with the draft HNES requirements.
Great, thanks, Aaron. We've just had one more come in from Philip, who said, I've been to a site where they have 13 people classed as vulnerable by the fire brigade. Would they count as customers in need? Lou, I don't know if you want to take that.
I've just replied further down, but yeah, I'll talk to it as well. But within the definition of customers in need, it's more of a focus on financial vulnerability. So I've put a link to our guidance in the chat, and also I've copied the definition of customers in need into the response to Philip. But yeah, it's looking at considered financially vulnerable and will therefore benefit significantly from reduced costs for heating or service improvements. So that doesn't necessarily, if people are on things like the priority services register, they're not necessarily on there because they're financially vulnerable. You can be on there if you're pregnant, for example, if you've got small children, if you are deaf, for example. Like there's various reasons why you might be on a priority services register, but not necessarily financially vulnerable. So we wouldn't automatically count that towards the customers in need definition. But again, if you have any of those kind of specific questions or sort of examples and you want to reach out to us directly, we're more than happy to talk about specific cases ahead of the sort of funding round closing, and we can let you know whether or not we think you would be eligible as per our definition. I'll just copy my response from the other comment that you put in, Philip, up to the question that you put in there as well.
Fab, thanks, Lou. Any more questions? It looks like that is it. Sorry, was there one more, Lou?
Yeah, no, I was just reading through them just to make sure we'd captured them all.
Okay.
Just because, yeah, where some people have put questions
In the
comments to other questions. So
Yeah.
I'm just making sure we've captured them all. Yes, I think we've answered all the questions that are there.
Okay, fab. Well, if there are no further questions, I'd like to say thank you everyone for coming. Hopefully you found this session useful, and as mentioned, we'll be sharing the slides with you. So thank you all for your time. If you'd like to follow our social pages, you can see both the LinkedIn and Twitter pages there. And you can also join our mailing list to get updates of all things HNES. So yeah, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.